Hey everybody, my name's Thomas Turner. I'm a director of cloud infrastructure practice here at RSM, and I'm in the office with JR today.
Hi, I'm JR Hernandez, and I am with RSM as well. I'm a network engineer with the team here, and excited to talk to Thomas.
Yeah, so I brought you an issue today where we've got a client that's being forced to migrate to the cloud. They're one of their enterprise applications that they currently host on premise. Their vendor is saying you have to put this in AWS because that's our new support model moving forward. So as a network engineer, I came to you and said, well, what does the client need to think about before moving up to the cloud? And you brought up a few components for me here. And that first one was how will the end user access the application? And from a networking engineering standpoint, what do you think around that?
Yeah, exactly. It's really a lot of factors come into play there. If it's publicly available over the internet, how are you going to protect it? How
Mhm.
are you going to secure it? If it just needs to be available to users in your organization, can you then just provide a direct access to it over a VPN or an Azure Express route, AWS Direct Connect, some type of thing like that, and how that integrates into your environment? So the accessibility to the application is a key factor in thinking of the overall design.
Yeah, definitely. And then you have the components of the identity. How are you going to bring that Active Directory that's on-prem to the cloud so they can authenticate to that cloud provider as well, which is always a plus.
Exactly.
So the next one I thought you brought up was, how much data is required for that application. And I was like, I have no idea. So if I needed to figure out like how much data my application currently uses, so you guys could capacity plan for that, like what do you do to figure that out?
Well, we have teams that can, look at the current architecture of your storage services and everything that you have there. And they'll plan out if you have a little amount of data, we can replicate it over the internet. That's good to go. But a lot of times we're getting in organizations, you have a lot of data, you have years of data
Mhm.
just archived there, and replicating it all to the cloud at once can eat a lot of bandwidth and take a lot of time depending on what you're paying for as a service.
That's true. Yeah, we've used those like Azure data boxes in the past where we can literally just load petabytes of data on this box and then literally give it to UPS and they ship it to Azure AWS. They plug it into
Perfect.
that backend storage and then you just replicate the deltas.
Sounds a lot better than replicating for a month, 2 months over the internet
Yeah, it's great
to the
with that.
cloud.
The next one was like network availability standpoint. Now that that critical business application is in the cloud, you know, what do I need to think of from a network availability standpoint, redundant WAN, things like that?
Exactly. Now your critical application, whether it's financial or critical personal information for clients, CRM stuff, all that kind of stuff. It's highly demanded by your workers,
Mhm.
and if they lose access in the middle of the day, do they just stop working? They just sit there?
That's
No,
true. Yeah. If the internet goes down,
boss, I can't work
it's
no
over.
more. The data's not there. So you need to think about your path there. You need to think about redundancy in your path there and having the availability, just let it automatically flip over to another connection if the primary connection is down.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I know another big component, especially from the application migration standpoint, is like the timeline of when are we going to move this application, when does it go live, and things like that. But from a networking standpoint, are there still supply chain issues with like lead times? Getting a firewall might take months, or switches might take months, or things like that. Or like when you think of, the application migration timeline from a networking standpoint, what should I be thinking about?
A lot of our clients we see today are in a traditional network. They have a firewall edge
Hmm.
and then a switched environment. They don't have the routing and the SD-WAN components in place. So yeah, they do have to think about these shipping. Now, shipping is going down, is getting quicker.
Hmm.
We've turned around the days of COVID and those shipping lags, but there's still lags out there, and it does take time. So, considering that in your timeline is huge. Um, Having a good plan for what you want to have your connectivity look like. And again, it really comes down to how are my services going to be accessed? Do I need these private lines or private connections, secure encrypted connections, or am I going to allow this data to be accessed via a public interface with authentication and security behind that? So
Gotcha. So I need to make sure that my firewall, my router, my switches have the right what services, feature sets
feature sets,
to
yes,
support this new enterprise application or this migration of an enterprise application into the cloud. And
exactly.
if it doesn't, I might be stuck waiting on Cisco or Palo Alto to ship me a firewall or ship me a device, which
Should
could
be a
add.
router device, yeah.
What's like if I ordered a firewall from Cisco today, like a decent firewall, what's average ship times for that? If you,
Actually, some products now are lead time of 1 day.
oh,
Some
really?
days are 30 days, some might be a few months, but there depends on the level of product and what you're going with. Cisco's getting a lot better. Meraki has gotten a lot better. As partners to Cisco, we do get some forecasting on what they
Oh,
are seeing at what their lead times can be for specific models. So if we're looking at specific circumstances, we can take and look at the model that we fit their need and give a good lead time estimate for them. But things are getting better. Like I said, the days of COVID are finally hopefully behind us,
her. No,
and our lead times are getting better. So
nice.
yeah.
And then we were when we were chatting earlier, you were saying that, you know, certain things probably need to be scheduled. We were talking about data backups, like having data backups for replication,
Oh yeah.
backing up your services, making sure that's not running during the day.
Yeah.
Um, what else do you think? Like, what other services should I be looking at as it relates to?
Storage, replication, backups, those things you get other groups and they want to get their things going and they're excited, to get it working, and they don't think that they're taking all this bandwidth, but they are. And ensuring that they're not doing this stuff during critical business hours,
Hmm.
when the rest of the groups in the office and the population's trying to use the internet as well as them. And then ensuring the quality of service is there, and if the ability is there with your WAN links to separate that traffic from your production traffic, allow your production traffic over your most primary used link, and let them use that secondary link that's probably not as best off or best quality, but does get the job done for them. So
So you're saying if I've got dual WAN connections, they don't have to be load balanced, but I could say I want all of my primary traffic, all of my, critical
critical.
stuff to go out this primary route, and I could have non-critical traffic go out a secondary if needed.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. And you'll find with service providers as you're going into the cloud, one provider might have, a very low latency, no loss type of connection to that cloud provider, and same another provider comes in the same location, and you get a high latency and spurts of loss here and there to
Oh,
that same cloud connection. You're going to prefer that one with the low latency and less loss, of course, especially if it has better throughput. But if you're equivalent throughputs, but you're seeing that low latency, you're gonna over the internet want that connection. So you
gotcha.
could put your critical apps on your low latent, less loss connection, and then say hey, send your users Facebook, Twitter, and or X traffic, whatever it's called nowadays.
So it's not really like an apples to apples. If both providers are giving me a gig down and half a gig up, there's still other components there that we need to
Oh
look
yeah,
at.
they can have other paths out to
Interesting.
the cloud, and even though you're getting that gig, you think to your desktop that you might have a completely different speed getting to Azure or AWS or Google Cloud compared to the others. So
Gotcha, gotcha. So you wrote an article on this thing and we're going to post that online along with this little video, but is there
Mhm.
anything else you want to tell everybody? Like when it comes to, from the perspective of a network engineer, like what else?
The security behind the cloud can't be forgotten.
Yep.
Posting your stuff in the cloud is one thing, getting it published in the cloud, you can't forget that you still need to secure those applications. You need to look at a next gen firewall to complement those services that are provided by all these different cloud providers out there. Cisco and Palo, they offer virtual appliances that you can put into the cloud, and I highly recommend always consider having that available and in front of your applications when migrating to the cloud.
So the native Azure AWS firewalls and networking is good, but it doesn't give you all the bells and whistles, the feature sets, and the insight that having Cisco on both ends or Palo on both ends would give you.
Exactly. And if you're already on-prem with Cisco firewalls or Palo firewalls and you're doing things, you're used to that management plane or pane that you're dealing with,
Hmm.
you're going to want to see the same thing and not have to learn a whole new technology of
Yep.
everything when you get to the cloud, right? As a network engineer, I want to be able to see those alerts and intrusion events and malware detections and everything as I would see it in my native Palo management interface or Cisco FMC or ASA interface as well. So
Perfect. Perfect. Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
no problem.
So, yep. Thanks, everybody.